Welcome to the Japanese house. Today, we're going to take a walk back in time and step into a silk merchant's home from Kyoto, Japan. This house was a gift to the city of Boston from the city of Kyoto. Harvard professor Yukio Lippit will be our guide and has so much to share with us. Hi, my name is May, and I'm here with Yukio Lippit at the Boston Children's Museum. He's going to tell us what makes this house so special.
I'm so excited to talk about this house with you. This is a traditional Japanese house, which means it reflects the way people have lived in Japan for many, many centuries. And as we'll see, it's very different from any house we have here in America. One of the nice things about this house is that they've reconstructed not only the house, but also the street that this house faced in Kyoto. And that's very important because Machiya literally means town house. And the town or city is a very important part of this kind of house. The front of the house is open and faces onto the street. And that's because people lived and worked in this type of house, and the bustling street life could be experienced directly in the house itself. This is not only important for people to sell things, but also for people to be part of the community of the street. So they were like an extended family, and the house itself is open to the street, the clients, the neighbors, and this whole extended family.
Let's talk about how this house was built.
There's some tile for the roof, and the white part of the walls are made of plaster, but otherwise it's all made of wood. From the outside, it looks very small, but once you enter the house, you'll see that it extends far into the back, and actually it's very large. These houses were taxed based on how wide they were facing the street. From the outside, you can't even tell that there are 2 stories to this house. The house is purposely built in order to hide its size from people standing out front. There are gridded doors, sliding doors towards the front, which you can open and close very easily, like this, and you could greet guests who would sit on a bench. And even if you close these, you could still get a great feeling of the house from the outside, and from the inside, you could get a clear view of the street.
So is that why this bench is here?
It sure is. You could imagine walking through the streets of Kyoto and seeing many benches with people sitting on them in front of the Machiya talking to the owners of these houses.
What is this roof made out of?
The roof is made out of tiles, which are made of baked clay, just like pottery. That means each one of these tiles is very heavy. They're made out of clay in order to prevent the spread of fire. People who lived in wooden houses like this were always worried about fire, and so they made roofs out of these tiles. And that's why when you look at the street, all of the roofs are made of similar tiles, which lends the street a nice rhythmic beauty. Japanese temples were made out of the same kinds of roof tiles.
Who is that on the roof?
That guy is Shoki, the demon queller. He was put on the roof in order to scare away bad spirits who had any thoughts of entering the house.
He's kind of scary looking, but in a cute way. Down the street is a beautiful fence.
These coverings were used to make the street look pretty, but they were also used to hide some of the dirtier aspects of the street. After all, dogs like to mark their territory in Japan too.
What's it made out of?
It's made out of bamboo. Other than wood, Japanese houses like this use lots of bamboo. Bamboo is hard but flexible. When you go inside, you'll see that there's bamboo growing in the garden as well, and there's lots of bamboo growing in Kyoto.
It's fun to touch.
It sure is.
There's a little sign on the outside of the door.
That's a nameplate. It announces the name of the owner of the house. We don't have these in America.
What does it say?
Well, now it says Machiya of Kyoto, but originally it would have said Sumiyama, the name of the owners of the house.
What's this one?
Well, that's the address of the house, and it says Nishijin, which is the textile district of Kyoto.
Does that mean these people were textile merchants?
Yep, either textile merchants or silk weavers, and that also means that the whole neighborhood would probably have been part of the textile business.
So let's take a look inside. The first thing you do when you enter the Machiya is take your shoes off.
Time to take our shoes off.
And step up into the room, just like in Japan. But something feels a little different. It's so small in here.
Well, let's sit down. Now how does it feel?
Oh, it feels much nicer.
Everything makes much more sense in a traditional Japanese house when you sit down. That's because Japan, for most of its history, was a floor-sitting culture. And these traditional houses were meant for people who lived by sitting on the floor like we are. Everything makes much more sense from a sitting position. The proportion of the room, the level of the drawers, the level of the door pulls of the sliding doors.
We're sitting on the floor and it feels comfortable.
Some people say it feels like you're doing yoga.
What are these?
These are straw tatami mats. How do they feel?
They feel hard, but soft at the same time.
They're really comfortable, both for sitting and sleeping on. These are the borders of the tatami mats. Each tatami mat is about 6 feet long by 3 feet wide, and they're just large enough for one person to lie down on, or for 2 people to sit comfortably and talk to each other on. How many tatami mats do you count in this room?
6.
So it's a rokujo, or 6-mat room. So this is a 6-mat room, the next one's a 6-mat room, and the far one is an 8-mat room. And the whole house is designed based upon the number of tatami mats in each of its rooms.
So these tatami mats are made out of straw. What other materials did they use to make this house?
The chest of drawers are made out of wood, and the ceiling is made out of cut planks of wood. But we also have paper. The sliding door panels are made out of paper, and we have shoji here, which are translucent rice paper sliding doors which filter the light coming in, so it looks soft and glowing.
We're in the Machiya, but I feel like we're part of the street. What was this room used for?
All the rooms in the Machiya have multiple functions, but this is the most public room in the house. This is where the owner of the house would sit and greet clients or guests who came up to them.
What's in the drawers?
The drawers were where they kept all of their cloths that they would sell to their customers.
Now we're leaving the workspace and entering the living space. These rooms are divided in an interesting way. Are these doors or walls?
These are sliding doors. In traditional Japanese houses, you don't have any walls.
No walls? What holds the roof up?
The roof is held up by these pillars or columns at the corners. That gives a lot of freedom, unlike stone or brick houses, not to have walls between rooms.
Should you keep these doors open or closed?
Well, if you want a slightly smaller, more intimate space, you can keep them closed. But if you want to expand the size of the room, you could leave them open.
So what are these?
These are examples of the joinery that's used to connect the wooden beams that are in the house.
It looks like they'll fall apart though.
They're actually very sturdy. They're precisely crafted to lock into place, and they don't use any nails.
No nails? Why?
Japan has lots of earthquakes, and you need to have a little bit of wiggle in the joinery in order to absorb the shock of the earthquakes and to keep the houses safe.
The ceiling here is so high. I feel like I'm looking up into the sky.
This is a 2-story house, although it doesn't look like it from the outside. So what you're looking at is the underside of the roof.
Are those windows?
That's right, but originally they would have been left open to let air and sunlight come in and to let the smoke from the cooking out of the house. Originally, there would have been a well right here where the family would have drawn its own water, which was pulled up by the pulley.
Oh, that's cool. So you would have a well inside your house. Check out those fat-bellied statues. They look like they're laughing.
These are gods of good luck. Their names are Hote, and they were popular in Kyoto.
Why are their bellies so big?
Well, they were gods of good fortune, and the merchants who lived in this house wanted to become wealthy and prosper. And what better sign of a wealthy person than someone who has a large stomach because they've been eating well?
Above the door are beautiful wooden boxes with the family crest painted on them.
These are boxes that held lanterns. They used them to get around at night because this was a period when there was no electric lighting.
Wow, they needed a lot of light. The largest room is in the back of the house and has 8 mats. 8畳.
This is one of the most important spaces in the house. This is a display space that's called a Tokonoma alcove.
Why are there flowers?
The flower arrangement, or ikebana, was a very important part of the display in a Tokonoma. You could adjust the flowers to the season. Usually the family's most important treasures, such as a painting or a ceramic bowl, was displayed in the Tokonoma.
So this place really complements the garden.
It was designed that way. You have art in the Tokonoma and nature in the garden.
Next to the Tokonoma alcove is the family Buddhist altar, Butsudan. This is a really important room.
This was probably the most important room in the house. This is where the dead ancestors of the family were worshipped. And they were treated just like living members of the house. You would feed them, you would wake up in the morning and you would say good morning to them, and when you went to bed, you would say good night to them.
In the back of the Machiya is a beautiful garden, Niwa. Did every Machiya have a garden?
Yes, most did. It was a way of bringing nature into the house.
Was this place normally open to the sky?
These machiya are designed so that you get lots of access to sunlight and air from the front, from the ceiling, and from the back. The entire house was well ventilated with wind blowing through. The house can breathe.
You mentioned that there was a second floor, but where are the stairs?
Well, they're actually right behind this door.
Ooh, a hidden staircase. That is so cool. Come on, let's see what's up there. Hey, isn't this a Tokonoma alcove?
That's right, there's another one on the second floor.
There's a lot of different types of wood used here.
That's right. This is a room in which the tea ceremony took place. And in the tea ceremony, the ideal room was something which looked very rustic, very much a part of nature.
Why does it look like there's still bark on that?
Well, this was a prized piece of wood in tea architecture. You had a log which looked like it was a found log that you just brought and put up here, and you didn't use any tools to shave it away. That way it looked very natural and very much an ideal part of the tea environment.
All the wood is so beautiful. Each piece is so different.
There are at least 19 different kinds of woods that are used in this house alone. As you could imagine, the Japanese are very sensitive to different kinds of woods, and each wood had different properties. They had different grains and different colors. These were mixed and matched in this kind of architecture for ornamental effect.
So what are these?
These are snow viewing windows. Go ahead and open it.
Hey, they open like the sliding doors.
That's right, they're like miniature sliding door panels. This entire second floor was opened up to nature too, so you could experience nature from here as well.
These doors have little patterns on them.
This is a special type of wallpaper which was used in traditional Japan, and in fact designed by a family which made the same kind of wallpaper for princes in early Japan. Look, May, there are patterns on both sides.
Wow, these look beautiful when the light's shining on them.
This is a shoji screen which is removable. Would you like to try to remove it?
Sure.
And what you see underneath is a special kind of window which is used in tea architecture. It has split bamboo, which is held together with pieces of vine. And in simple tea houses, which were made of earthen walls, this was the underlying structure of the wall. And so if you punched a hole through the wall, you would just see the frame like this.
Hey, this looks like an attic room. But why is the ceiling so low?
Well, remember from the front of the house, you couldn't tell that this was a two-story house because they tried to hide the fact. And they did so by making the front room of the second floor small like this. Usually in Machiya, this room was used for storage.
Wow, we're back in Boston. I've learned so much. Thank you so much for showing us this house.
It was a lot of fun to enter into this house because it takes us to Kyoto and shows us how Japanese people live.
So next time you visit the house, see what you can find.
Mata ne!